Шановні пані, наших наступних спікерів, ми говоритимемо на тему створення Центру координації оперативної допомоги армії та гарячої лінії допомоги. Нашими спікерами на цю тему будуть Анна Коваленко, радник міністра оборони та сотник 39-ї жіночої сотні самооборони, Анна Майборода, волонтер, голова правління Всеукраїнського об'єднання «Patriot», та ще одна Анна Сандалова, волонтер і президент благодійного фонду «Підтримуй армію України». Будь ласка.
Дякую, доброго дня. Я думаю, що ми по черзі зможемо підходити.
So this is the press briefing on establishing a coordinating center for urgent support to the army and the hotline. Mr. Mehid is not the Deputy Minister of Defense. He's not with us now, just three Annas. But I would like to say in general that we cooperate fruitfully with the Department of Press and Information, with the information of public relations, humanitarian and social policy, and we decided to create this coordination center to simplify the work of volunteers. We're not trying to head something, but it simplifies the work for those who come for assistance and those who can render that. We have the girls from Sotnya 39 who take the phone calls. There's a phone line which is 724 hotline, and during the day we process about 100 calls, and we hope that in the future we'll be able to process up to 1,000. We make this call center together with the Patriot organization and Support Ukraine's Army Foundation. So Anna Sandalova from Support Ukraine's Army Charity Fund. I would like to tell why we have this idea of setting up the call center. Our fund and NGO were formed in the Facebook. It started to work from the beginning of March. Now we have about 7,000 active volunteers, people who help army from time to time, who help systemically. We cooperate with all other volunteer organizations, and within 4 months of work, within 4 months of helping army, starting from supplying equipment, the bulletproof vests, the repair of equipment, some educational assistance, medical. So we were trying to address many issues, and there are many people who help the army. And it is very important in our work to cooperate with the Ministry of Defense, and basically before you bring 400 bulletproof vests to the unit, you need to find out from the army, maybe they are planning to bring these vests there. So we have to coordinate a lot of our work, especially when it comes to logistics. So this idea of coordination, of putting in one place, gathering all the information in one place, that is important. Sometimes the Ministry of Defense cannot address some of the issues because the volunteers, they can bring what is needed, but all those who follow the process, they know that. Another objective is creating of priority attention points. We can understand it talking to military, to the ministry. That is what we have invented and what we want to implement. And now we would like to give the floor to Anna Mayboroda. And she organized all the volunteers. They ran the psychological assistance and legal assistance. Because we help the military we've been helping for 3.5 months. Actually, they are like our children. Besides the tasks that we coordinate with the Ministry of Defense, we understand that the military need psychological assistance and legal assistance as well as medical assistance. And that is what they will need tomorrow, after war, in a year, in several years. Because we have created this big network of volunteer organizations in all the regions of Ukraine, and because we know all the volunteers, all these groups of volunteers all over the country. In Kyiv, it's difficult to resolve some problems in Zaporozhye, Crimea, Odessa, or Kharkiv. So being in the center, we coordinate our actions with volunteers, and we created the system of coordination. What does it look like? We get a request about the needs from the military unit. Before we give it to the volunteers, we talk to the Ministry of Defense whether this equipment is supplied to the military unit. We spend money, but maybe that's in the plan, and maybe we can save money for volunteers and use it for something else. The first task of the call center is we are ready to receive requests about legal assistance, psychological assistance. We're ready to receive complaints from military, and we are ready to help relatives of the military, because coordinating our work with the Ministry of Defense, we can give some information to the Ministry of Defense via our call centers. If it's a legal requirement, we send it to lawyers. If it's in Kyiv, then to Kyiv lawyers. If in Zaporozhye, then to the group of lawyers in Zaporozhye. Talking about psychological assistance, we work with the psychologists from Maidan who have been working there. They work successfully in Kyiv hospitals, in Irpin, in the central hospital, and they work in Kharkiv and Odessa. The local psychologists are ready to help wounded relatives and military in the future, so that we do not have the syndrome similar to after Afghanistan war syndrome. The same, talking about medical assistance, we cooperate with volunteers Sotnya and with Medical Maidan. We have set up the body, which makes it easier for all the volunteers to coordinate their work. We now understand how the Ministry of Defense works, and we are ready to fulfill all the tasks quicker. There was a legal, we developed some legal brochure. We have published some first books. These are like the books for the platoons and detachments. But together with the lawyers of the Ministry of Defense, we want to make a book which will provide answers to all the legal issues and questions. Plus to that, we will add some very simple recommendations. How to get a certificate from the tax administration or other things. So we want to give this book to the military. So there are some questions, and the lawyers will provide answers to these questions. Next proposal was again about some booklet that will be made by psychologists, and they will provide answers to the questions that the military have during the wartime.
Now people are getting more and more tired on the other hand, we have a lot of volunteers who would like to participate in the ATO, those who are psychologists, etc. That's why I would like to encourage those people to come to us. If you feel responsibility for the country and want to do something, come to us. Also, I would like to mention what we do in medical sphere. Our foundation has organized trainings in medical assistance into battalions number 11, number 25, which are now located near Kiev. Also, we suggested to provide trainings in tactical Medicare, in first aid on the battlefield, etc., to train trainers, which will later train military men on the side. In order to organize normal life for those military men, servicemen who will come back to Kiev, we will need to organize good rehabilitation base, both for those who are wounded or who will need psychological assistance. We have this project in our agenda, and now we work on it. I'm Oksana Melnichuk, and I have a question, probably not to you, to the Ministry of Defense. As to you, I would like to thank you, because I believe that assistance is laid upon your responsibility. I would ask the Ministry of Defense that in the country, when there is an army where battalions which are fully equipped and trained, they are not able to finish their combat successfully. As an advisor to the Ministry of Defense, I can tell you that we have some hope in reform in the ministry. There are people who care about Ukraine. This is a very difficult, very tough mechanism. When you launch any ideas to this system and want to bring this idea to final implementation, you have to follow the idea at each step. Actually, as head of Sotnya 39, I should say that we have not finished illustration at the ministry. On the other hand, actually, we have found many supporters and people ready to assist us in the ministry. When it came to the evacuation of people from Crimea, it was the Ministry of Defense who reached us and suggested us to tell where we can assist, and suggested let us join together and concentrate our joint efforts on reaching joint target. As volunteers and activists, we keep on standing behind the shoulder of each bureaucrat. We have mobile phones of the heads of all departments. If volunteers have access to the ministry bureaucrats. Actually, main objective is to resolve the problems. Now we're discussing the possibility to establish a joint working group and to start a long-term process of the Ukrainian army reform. Our final objective is to change the army in a way that we will be sure in our security guaranteed by this army. And then TV channel. Can you explain whether you have seen any shift in the requirements expressed by Ukrainian army? For example, Kiev 1 battalion, which is now in Lugansk region, they require cars for patrols where they can go, on which they can go to the fields and carry out their patrolling in the fields, actually. As for your first question about requirements, the more and more people are enrolled to the army, they require the specially protected vests, they require helmets, etc. The Ministry of Defense gets more and more prepared to this end, and they're now able to provide more individual safety clothes. And then about Land Rovers, crossovers, all the battalions of territorial defense have to follow standard procedure. They have to submit requests to our center, and then it will depend. Either volunteers will be able to resolve the issue, or I will try to lobby this request in the rear service of Ukraine. They also have to address their requests to the regional military body. Ukrainian army had not been reformed for 23 years, and the majority of things needed for the army are bought by volunteers. For example, we buy thermovisioners, and then we need to enter this equipment into its balance sheet. The request has to be filed by some officer of some specific rank. From our experience, we know that sometimes we can bring humanitarian aid, rather expensive, rather big bulk of humanitarian aid, and we bring it to the army. We would like to be sure that if there will be some residuals of this humanitarian aid, this aid should be properly registered in the military forces. The same is true for Kiev 1 battalion. Alexander Pravenko Summit. Do you believe it is right when the battalions are formed and go to the front line while where they find out that their security vests are not sufficiently tailored, that is, they are not sufficiently equipped, thus that waist and neck remains open? I would prohibit to allow such soldiers who are such servicemen who are in insufficiently equipped safety vests, not to allow them to go to the front line. Other volunteers who buy these safety vests. I absolutely agree with you. As for the formation of battalions, I believe this is one of the most important things today, which allows people to defend their motherland. As for the equipping of the vests, I am not an expert in the vests. I do not purchase them. There are vests which should be used on the checkpoints under fire. Fully equipped vest weighs 13 kilos. Or how? She doesn't speak to the microphone. I was in the Aidar battalion where I was given the safety vest fully equipped, but you are a girl. No, this is true for the man too. Yeah, this is weight. You can wear it within half an hour, but I will explain it briefly from my experience of communication with the serviceman. It depends on the combat task and combat environment. If there is some standard military task, then they could use the lightly equipped vests because even they weight 4 kilos, it's not very comfortable. Today I saw the extremely light safety vests when there was only one small plate at the level of human heart. And these are for the tasks when people have to cover up to 30 kilometers on foot. My question is, my experience shows that today enrollment to the army service is from the most poor families, because those who are richer are able to pay bribes. In Kyiv Oblast, in Boguslav district, people are now very much concerned that there will be no people to work in the fields because younger guys from working families, from farmers' families, will go to the army. Then I would like to ask a question: why do we continue to enlist to the army service those young guys from who are not trained? And why the National Guards is so much involved? Why we have the Afghan veterans, we have experienced servicemen from the hotspots, etc. As for the National Guards, people who come to the National Guards, they are subject to special training. That is, they are trained in basic things. Then they get the head of the unit, which is experienced. As for the army enrollment, Yeah, there are several problems there. We have the places where you can address your concerns. It is very important to address your question to specific person. Any further questions? Then thank you very much, Anna. Thank you. Всім Аннам, we would like to all Annas, we would like to thank you. Dear colleagues, in 3 minutes we will have our last speaker for today.